But welcome. This is to provide an overview of the Murfreesboro Community Investment Trust. I know this has been a long anticipated and awaited process. So I know you guys are glad to see that the trust is finally rolling out its grant application process. So we're excited to provide some administrative support to the trust for this process. So our objectives for this training are just to provide a little bit of background and overview about the trust, talk about the eligibility guidelines, how to access the grant application online, and what the timeline is, and then provide time for questions and answers at the end. As you guys may be aware of, the city sold its electric department to Middle Tennessee Electric. And with those proceeds, they decided to establish the trust. A portion of the proceeds do go to benefit infrastructure projects with the city, and then another portion goes into the trust, which is being used to provide investments in the community through the work of our local nonprofits. There is a 15-year period that those payments are being distributed, so the funds of the trust will continue to grow. And as a result of that, the funds that are available to distribute into the community through nonprofits will also continue to grow. But at this point, we're still in our beginning stages of that. The funds are limited at this point. The purpose of the trust is set forth in a trust agreement. And so these are the official documents with the establishment of the trust. And so with that, they want to support projects and programs in the city. They want to promote and advance the social welfare of the inhabitants of the city, promote and support educational and recreational programs, facilities, and opportunities within the city, to promote and support economic development and employment opportunities, fund public works within or benefiting the city, and advance the general welfare of the city and its residents. So the trust is managed, it is a separate entity of the city, and it is managed by a board of trustees. So there's 7 individuals who are appointed to the board of trustees, and they provide the financial management and oversight of the trust. And then there's a committee on contributions, which that committee is responsible for the work of the grant making process. So those are the ones that will be reviewing and voting to approve your grant applications that you submit. So with that, we're going to move into an overview of how the application can be accessed. They are using a third-party grant-making software system, so all applications will be submitted online. It's a very common system, so you may have used it when you've submitted applications with other foundations, so you may recognize the platform. And hopefully you'll find it to be a very user-friendly process. As we move into the application process, in order to be eligible to receive funds from the Community Investment Trust, you must be a 501c3 organization, or you can be a civic organization with a 501c4 or C6 designation. The projects must take place within the Murfreesboro city limits and provide benefits to the residents or to the City of Murfreesboro. We don't fund projects that are outside of the city limits. The organization must operate year-round. All program services are open to all without discrimination or exclusion, that you are ADA compliant, and that the project aligns with the purpose of the trust, which we just went over. The information about the application, everything can be found on the community grant application website. If you just go to murfreesborotn.gov and add community grant application, that will take you directly to the website. On that web page, you will find the link to the application, the grant guidelines, training videos and tutorials, and that'll include today's recording, frequently asked questions. And then there are 2 forms that are going to be needed to be attached to your application. It's a budget form and a financial questionnaire. Both of those forms are on this web page as well. When you log into the application portal, this is what the page will look like. Because this is a new process, everyone will need to create a new account. So when you go here, just click this create new account. You'll walk through some information questions and you'll fill out, and then you'll be able to log in and access the application. So once you go through this process, the next page will be your applicant dashboard. So it'll have your information and your organization's information. And then this will be where you can also apply for the application. So you can hit the apply button there at the top of the screen. So then once you get into the application itself, the information will contain the guidelines. That will be the first page that you see. And then also at the bottom where it says preview, you can click that link and that'll give you a preview of all the questions that are on the application. When you are ready to actually enter in content into the application, you can hit the blue apply button that's up there on the upper right hand side, and that will actually take you to the application. And so that's what this section will look like. Within the application setting, there is a button where you can access the questions. So that'll be a PDF form. So you can actually get the questions in a PDF form that will allow you to kind of work on those offline without having to directly enter into the application if you want to do a copy and paste process. And then once you've completed everything, you can submit the application. As you see, you can save your entries along the way and work on it and exit it and come back. So you don't have to do it all in one setting. You can enter and exit out of the portal however you want to. But then once you submit the application, that is final. You can't do any further edits onto the application. So just kind of some tips and best practices. It's really good there's always glitches and things that happen within online systems. So I always recommend that if you can work outside of the system to get your narrative. There are character limits on the question. So each question has an identified character limit. Please note that those are characters and not words. So it includes spaces and things like that. But they tried to be generous with the amount of information. But the whole purpose of the application overall is really to try to present your information as succinctly and clearly as possible. Try to give yourself time. Don't wait to the last minute to submit the application. The portal does close at 4:30 on October 31st. And, we prefer for you not to be stressed out if anything glitchy happens and you're having difficulties. So try to allow some time. Be sure to bookmark the application link. And again, note the deadline for submittal is 4:30 p.m. on October 31st. The process timeline is that the application portal will be open for 1 month. After that, there'll be a 2-step process. So there'll be an internal process to make sure all the applicants have the required documentation, are a 501c3 and all that stuff that's required. And then once that is complete, the applications will be turned over to the Committee on Contributions, where they will review and make recommendations for funding. Those recommendations have to go to the Board of Trustees by February 15th. The trustee votes on those recommendations, and once the trustees give their approval, then it has to go to City Council for final approval. And we anticipate that the whole approval process will be completed by the end of March. Notifications will go out and award checks will be submitted after July 1st. And the project year for your projects must be within the July 1st, June 30th timeframe, which corresponds to our fiscal year. With that, we'll answer any questions. If you start the process or if you have a question that comes up after this training, please feel free to use the CIT grants at murfreesborotn.gov email address to submit any questions that you might have in the meantime. So if you have a question, you can throw it up in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself and do that, you can as well. Angela is online with me today too, so she's fielding questions too. Beth had asked, where do you access the link? So it's the murfreesborotn.gov community grant application is the website. Can you share the trustees? So let me go back to the list of trustees. So the Board of Trustees is the oversight board, and then the Committee on Contributions is the ones that will be reviewing the grant applications. So the limit on funds, that is in the grant guidelines. The maximum amount for this grant cycle is $65,000. It's anticipated that the grant awards will range in the $10,000 to $25,000 range. If you serve Murfreesboro residents, but physically your office is in another county in Rutherford, yes, you can apply. Will there be a space to attach letters of support in the portal? Yes, there will be a place where you can attach that. If our organization is based in Murfreesboro but serves all of Rutherford County, can we apply? You can apply, but the funds must benefit Murfreesboro directly. Your use of funds can't benefit people outside of the city of Murfreesboro. So as long as you can designate that your project is benefiting those within the city limits of Murfreesboro. What are the documentation requirements for these awards? You'll have to provide your 501c3, a board list, an org chart, and then 990s if you have those, and then the budget form and the financial questionnaire. Does it have to be a new project to expand? It can be new or current, whichever you want to submit for. If we receive the award, what is the reporting process? There'll be a 6-month and an end-of-year report. And that information is in the guidelines as well. Yes, the funds are only for 1 year. Are the funds designed for operating or capital projects? The funds cannot be used for capital campaigns or capital projects. It doesn't prohibit from operating cost. And will you send the slide deck? I won't send the slide deck out, but it will be posted on the website, so you can access it off of the website. Let me go back to the page to access the information, so you have that as one last review. So again, all the information can be accessed at murfreesborotn.gov/community grant application. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to send those to the CIT email address.